Hey traders, welcome to today's recap. This is Christian from Hertz Tribeca Trade Group, and today is Wednesday, July 17th. So through Wednesday now, we've got a couple more days of the week. Let's go over some of the earnings. Wow, these have been some really crazy earnings reports so far. So Netflix after the where do I start? Netflix after the close. So they missed pretty decently here. Here's the numbers that came up, and stock plunged more than 10%. They did miss. The streaming number is the big number, missed expectations for subscriber growth by a wide margin. International looked fine, but overall did not look good. I think their guidance was okay, and everything else seemed to be okay. So let's just recap that. But man, we are seeing companies get punished to the downside when they miss, right? And there's been some bright spots too. One of the things that came out, I'm going to go right to CSX because I think this is an important one. I think the CEO said in their analyst call, so they were down 10% today as well, that they said that this is one of the most puzzling environments that he can remember. I think from a trading and investing standpoint, I was on the network Cheddar today, and we were talking about the same thing. This is some really, I would say, I think I'm going to stick with the word puzzling. I think is really interesting and the right word to kind of describe this environment, because you look at a company like Cintas, which what do? They make uniforms for businesses, right? And they're up to 8% and breaking out. I mean, look at this thing, right? Cintas. Some of today's other reports, were eBay, which had good numbers. And look at the I mean, talk about this. Like, this looks like one of the most ugliest candles I've ever seen. Now, I'm the one to say that. Let's not be that dramatic. But a really ugly looking candle going into earnings. And look at this thing. Is it over 40.40? Yeah, it's above value. So it's just give it back all of that. So, really, I would say confusing. Typically, earnings can be trend breakers, right? You could kind of read the technicals a little bit for earnings, but if they come out with something that's much different than expectations, it's going to completely do like a knee-jerk reaction like this, and much different than the way eBay was leaning. IBM is also up to 145 after the close, so up a couple bucks. This is one of those names where I think the sentiment is pretty low. Because their numbers were not stellar, I would say. But yeah, Netflix hanging around 320 right now after hours. So where does this line up on the daily chart? So this is going to be taken. This VPOC is going to be taken out. First of all, 330, 320. If we go to the weekly chart, that's going to get you down to here, basically to and out of this range, just like that. I think there may be one version point of control down here. This one was the last one that was taken out. I don't know what that print was, but I think there was one at 320 too. But we're now sitting here down at 319 and moving lower. So I think this is a big deal. This is a big deal for the FANG stocks and momentum names. So if let's go back to the you could see the S&P is closed right on the lows today. The level that I was watching, and we held on to this for until about lunchtime today, but 3,003. And if you watched yesterday's video, I kind of lined this up in terms of scenarios that we might see. So we have broken into value. So we've kind of lost that the short-term uptrend. Very short term, because if you look at the daily, what's the next line in the sand is going to be 2964. And why did I think it was important to watch that 3003 level? Because that's a lot of handles to go down to check back to support. So it looks like we're going to be doing that at some point. You can see we're still going down here, down 80 basis points now. So that's going to be a check back. Let's look at the Qs. Well, they're not going to show after hours, but they kind of look the same, right? S&P and NASDAQ, which we went over in last night's video. We could see a check back to 7815. So I think a lot of people were wondering about earnings expectations as I'm just going over this. That's a decent clip down there. And 20, what did I say? That's 78.30 is the bottom of value using the 1 hour. So 78.31. Let's just, I forgot what I said here. That's 78.13. So you're going to have a couple different levels that you could possibly see us get through there in Nasdaq. But yeah, so things, risks comes at you fast during earnings season. And let's go over to small caps as well. But I think a lot of people were wondering if expectations were too low. I guess not, because we are seeing a lot of misses. IWM. So I tried an IWM trade yesterday. I think, if you're a member of the Tribeca Trade Group, you are seeing me get into some trades and giving them a shot and then getting out of them very quickly if they're not going to work. My opinion is if you're playing in shorter term options, right, and you still have a decent premium. Like I think I went out to for IWM. I went into September. So this is something that again I was looking for small caps as a catch-up trade. They are now breaking the value. This is not a trade that I want to be in because you could lose potentially all the premium very quickly. So I did stop myself out of that trade today. I gave it a chance. We were kind of watching this around 10:30 this morning break. We rallied back, but we could not get into value. So no confirmation. I thought maybe we'd see a hammer bar right at the top of value midday today, but we did not get that. And again, the closing print is the most important. So the point I'm trying to make here is, we can't control the market. This is what I said very much in yesterday's video. I can only make adjustments based on what the market is giving me. So again, I don't want to have big losses. If I have to have losses, I'd rather have them be little losses, right? So you'll see me sometimes get into trades, and I'm not going to sit and fight with a trade and add to it 2 or 3 times. There'll be the reason why I don't do that is because if I think there could be more short time, and again, that's why I'm going through some levels here. If I think that there could be more of a continuation to the downside in the short term, let it play. I want to always let it play out, and then I can attack with once I see the turn and once I see that we're holding support. But when we just start to break support, that for me tells me to get out of some exposure a bit. So that's what I did yesterday. That's also what I did today. You could see, I'm happy to show you my exits for the day, but and I would say I got a little bit lucky today. When I think that the market is in a situation where the 3 scenarios that I outlined in yesterday. The 3 scenarios that I outlined yesterday, that we could either grind higher, we could chop around during earnings season, or we could actually go back and check back to support. So I think what we're seeing is we may be seeing a check back to support. I got lucky. I was in a couple short put spreads. I was in a short put spread in SHOP, got out of that one. I was in a few calls in TM, Toyota, got out of them. Got out of some exposure in cyber today in the morning. This gave back early gains as well. I didn't even get it. We haven't gotten into gold yet, but that's going to be. I'm going to spend some time going over the gold charts and what happened today in gold. We day traded some MDT today. We saw a lot of calls in that one. Abbott reported, had good results. So again, it's not all bad. I know sometimes when I with these end of day puts, sometimes I reference more, spend more time on the negatives. Again, I always do that because I'm always worried about if I'm long-term bullish and I've got more exposure on the long side. I'm always worried about that risk. So if you think I'm too negative on these calls, it's because I'm always worried about my risk, and I would call myself cautiously bullish, something to that effect. But got out of. I kept a small piece of MDT on. You could see right here. I think I mentioned that. But I forced some exits. I would love to get this TDD trade where again, this was another short put spread. This is a bullish trade, but I would love to see this thing get all the way down to 0. But I have a whole week before that happens. So I did take a stop in BZUN, just to review this again. Sometimes it's important to review what happened here, but this was a very ugly looking candle yesterday. One of the things that I realized today is that this actually hit major resistance up here at 56.15 and got a firm rejection, slap in the face for BZUN up there. What else did I do today? Here is my exit on IWM for a loss. Bought back again, forced an exit here in Twilio as well, to get out of again. It was had a lot of, in some of the cloud and software names, had a lot of short put spreads, right, which is bullish, just collecting some premium if the name goes up. So that's a situation there. I will say for earnings trades, I put a couple of them on and none of them have worked. So if that's not working for me, then I stopped doing it. And I think I did that last quarter too for earnings trades. Had some success with earnings trades, and then got a couple trades wrong last earnings, and I just took the whole earnings cycle off. And I think that was the right thing to do. So I think I'll be doing that as well. You try some trades, and if they don't work, that's fine, and then you move on. You don't stay wrong. It's a big thing. All right, so that's today's trades. Let's go over more of the price action. Again, so why do I go over this? This is the percentage change from open, because it just gives me a feel about what actually happened for the day. So this should tell you right now. So again, this column N over here is percentage change from open, right? And small caps let us down again. And then look at TLT and gold. So bonds and gold very well bid today, both of them, right? So pretty risk off. The only other sector, sorry, someone's moving some furniture around in my office, was IGV, right? And again, I looked at on that because I had some exposure. But look at the gold miners today. I'll look at the silver miners too, which I don't have on my spreadsheet because I just haven't really had a need to follow them. But a lot of call activity in those silver miners today. Momentum buying, right? I mean, this is what we call when a group is up 3% and somebody starts buying calls left and right. That's momentum call buying. That's not smart. That's not necessarily, again, it doesn't mean they're going to be wrong, but if they're chasing silver miners up 3 or 4%, that's pure momentum. Somebody's looking for continuation, for a start of move. Very different. I think the smart activity is when nothing is going on, when it's kind of choppy and somebody starts accumulating a position in there. When people are just buying calls after a name or group is up 4%, I view that as kind of dumb buying, but it doesn't mean it's not going to work. But I very rarely chase that because I view that you may get an opportunity like an inside day to actually add risk into that. If you catch it early, then you're lucky, right? And you've done a good job. But a lot of this stuff comes after like these groups have moved 4%. So again, don't worry, I'll go over those charts in a second. But just to kind of finish this analysis, I mean, transports, that was mainly CSX. XOP energy stocks again hammered. They just continue to seem like any bounce in energy stocks gets hit hard. Industrial names down big as well. Retail was down 1.3%. Steel names down again. Chinese internet's down. So on and so forth. The FANG stocks all in the red after the open today. They all got hit pretty hard today. The software names, as I said, they were the bright spot for today, mainly green, and again maybe acting a little bit defensive in nature because they don't have an exposure. Most of them do not have too much exposure to the trade war. This group was kind of mixed for the day. Roku got hit pretty hard. I think that's trading off in the afternoon hours with Netflix. And then a mixed bag here. Interesting, Baba outperformed today, closed up, but the rest of the Chinese internets, some of them really got hit pretty hard today. All right, so to me, just to sum this up and bottom line here, and Wayfair falls as much as 3.9% as executives departure. Wow, jeez. So a lot of moves to the downside. But yeah, just to sum this up and bottom line, Just reading that headline here, that's why I get distracted sometimes, is because I do read the headlines as they come out. But overall risk off, especially with what we're seeing here, and I think with bonds and gold confirming. Now, is this the end of the story? And here was one story that I read today is that hedge funds, when hedge funds generally start to participate, it's a warning sign for equities, right? Hedge funds, in my opinion, are the dumb money as well. Sorry if anybody works at a hedge fund, but it just is what it is. When these guys start to get involved, and crowded into a trade, it's usually the trade will go the other way, right? I know at one point it used to be called the smart money. I don't think that's the situation anymore, considering how much they've been underperforming. All right, so let's go to so let's talk about gold. Right, let's look at a couple gold charts. This is the weekly chart. This is something that we were waiting for. Was this bull flag? I think we talked about this yesterday, that it was any day now that this was going to break. Big move, up 1.6%. We have not taken out the highs, but I am very bullish on gold here. Let's look at silver. Silver is a little bit different, mixed picture. We did take out this VPOC here at 14, call it 1485. There's another one up here that's kind of looks like a gap and go. One thing, if you're bullish on silver for long term, again, if you zoom out, you can see that this really hasn't done much, and it's now getting close to the 200-day moving average on the weekly chart. 1638 would be where you might be looking for an exit on silver for long term, right? For long term trend. That would be a move all the way through the 2019 value area. GDX. GDX is the weekly, getting a bit overbought. I did take some targets in this. I could always decide to put the trade back on, but I still have some exposure to GDX, up 4%. Very nice. Some of the names that we saw call buying in, PAAS. We saw Nugget call. So PAAS is a silver miner. We saw some Nugget early on here. This was at 1142. I mean, that's 3 times. It can't get any more aggressive than that if you want to get long gold miners. That's 3 times GDX, and you're buying calls. So really aggressive there. What else? A couple other names that we saw. An SSRM, if you're not familiar with this name, I don't blame you. But this is a gold and miner silver. Small cap name, so if you're looking for something even more speculative here, SSRM calls went up. Also silver, just outright SLV calls. You could see these came in a couple times. So they were really chasing, as I mentioned. This was around what time today? Right around 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, we saw these. So again, after the move had already taken place, but somebody's looking for more upside in silver. So again, that's really the story of the day, was that the precious metals. Let's just go to Bitcoin. I don't talk about Bitcoin too much. What is this? XBT. Take a look at this. This is Bitcoin futures. I'm on the daily chart. This is, I think I got the wrong one. Hold on one second. Let's see. So I must have the wrong one here. It's XBTC. All right, so why is this interesting? Well, it put in a little bit of a hammer bar here on the 50-day moving average. If you like Bitcoin, use that 50-day moving average in the futures. We'll see what happens from here. Clearly, this thing did not make a higher high here, so it didn't really confirm here as well. But we'll see if this can hold the 50-day moving average. I'm kind of lumping in Bitcoin to gold and bonds right now. It seems like for a little bit they were moving together. Another area that I'm watching is utilities. We'll see if utilities can break that 6110 top of value. So I have an alert set there as well. One other one, because I know we're talking a lot about gold and silver and miners and so forth. Watch this ATVI. There's some weekly calls that were bought. I set an alert here at 40, basically 47.40. Notice it did not get above that level, so nothing to do yet. I think an ATVI, for me anyway, I want to see this start to move. Other than just the calls that were bought today. They bought some weekly calls, some July calls today. Not that big of a premium, but I would keep an eye on it. All right, guys. So that's it. Bottom line is that we may be coming into support in both S&P and the Qs. We're going to have to see if that holds, but it could be a good place to add risk once we get there. But we're not there yet. Could be a little bit more downside. And then small caps, I do not like what they're doing. I was really looking, like I said, for a catch-up trade, but they're not going the right way. So, they do have support at 150, but man, this is not the right, confirmation that I was looking for the small caps to maybe take the next leg and be a catch-up trade. And then, you got to watch, I think gold and silver, these rallying are telling us something, as well as what we're seeing with some of these names that are reporting earnings. All right, so that's today's recap. Thanks for watching, everybody, and have a great night.